Hello, my spirited living community. Let's try this again. I popped on for a minute and had to pop off. Welcome, welcome to our weekly date with your inner goddess team, with where we really make a very conscious, intentional commitment to honoring the divine feminine and to reclaiming her within ourselves, within the world. And we do that because we so desperately need the divine feminine and owning the best of those powerful feminine qualities, honoring our emotion, honoring our intuition, honoring our connection to our bodies, celebrating our bodies, which so often get trashed in many ways in our very commercial society. And then through our bodies, our connection to nature. So I obviously can't move through this day without acknowledging that it is St. Patrick's Day. I will talk a little bit about that, but we won't be focusing on that today. We'll bring in some Celtic goddess energy next week, actually. What I would love to do is to kind of keep us in this springtime mode that we're in, but I can't, I have to acknowledge St. Patrick's Day because, especially in New York City, we go a little nutso about it. Plus the fact I have a wonderful daughter-in-law and two magical granddaughters who are Irish. My granddaughter's half Irish, obviously, and I love them all. And I want to honor the Irish community and the Celtic goddesses that they supplied us with. However, St. Patrick's was not a friend of the divine feminine. The mythology is that he drove the snakes out of Ireland. And if you just scratch the surface on a little bit of research, you find that there really are no snakes in Ireland. They are not indigenous to Ireland. But what we do know is that snakes have, for millennia, been associated with the goddess. Because they regenerate, and for many reasons. There's lots of metaphors about snakes in Christianity, obviously the Garden of Eden, but other places too. And in other traditions and other cultures, they were actually revered. So he not only, quote, drove the goddess out of Ireland, he also forbade them to worship their primary Celtic goddess, which was Bridget. But smart guy turned her into a saint, so she's Saint Bridget, and she still is honored today. You can't put a good goddess down. She is still honored today, and I've talked about this before. I think we talked about Bridget at Imbolc on February 2nd. But she is still honored today, and her flame is kept burning at Kildare in Ireland. So thank you, St. Patrick's, for giving me my daughter-in-law, my granddaughters. And next week, I think what we will do is we will honor Sheila Nagig. I'll just give you a little heads up. Her actual celebration day was tomorrow, and she is out of Irish mythology. But I won't say much more than that. Today, however, March 17th, is also from ancient times, and this is why we're bringing her in today, is also when she's got such a lineage, when the goddess Astarte this was her festival day, was March 17th apparently, and she was honored, see if this sounds familiar, by passing around red dyed eggs being the symbol of fertility. That's part of Astarte in her many faces, and actually many different names through the different civilizations that she wound forward through. She was the goddess in the most kind of pedestrian sense of the word, of sexuality, of fertility, of war, kind of interesting. But the fertility piece is what connects her to the springtime. And in fact, the spring equinox, of course, is this Saturday. It's March 20th. Astrologically, it's when the sun moves into Aries, so moves into the first sign of the zodiac. It's the moment when the sunlight hours and the daytime hours, and the nighttime hours and the daytime hours are equally balanced. That's the equinox piece. So we will be doing, I'll say this before I forget, we will actually be doing a really beautiful spring equinox service, spring equinox celebration at Fourth Universalist Society, my UU church, online. If you just go to fourthu.org, you can see information about that this Saturday night, 7 o'clock. So Astarte wound her way through. We believe her origins were really from the Phoenicians and the Canaanites. That's where she started out as Astarte. And then, see if I can remember all the path that she went. She was, then she was also known as Ishtar in the Mesopotamian countries, and then Sumeria. In Sumeria, she was Inanna. And in fact, it's interesting, when I was looking for representations of her, because I don't have an Astarte statue of all the many images of the Divine Feminine I have in my office, several of them looked very much like the statues that I know to be of Inanna, where she is basically, she's naked, she's holding her breasts, because she is a face, she is an aspect, she's a kind of a later aspect of Astarte. And then, let's see, and then she evolves into, ultimately, Greek Venus and Roman Aphrodite, or Greek Aphrodite, Roman Venus. So that's where the sexuality and the fertility piece comes into. So she has quite a lineage. Her mythology is more, she is this grand goddess of all. She is the one who birthed the cosmos, and the earth and the sky and the stars. There's a wonderful thing that I found. Let's see, she was the mother of the sun, daughter of the moon, ruler of the stars, and keeper of the earth. In the beginning, Astarte was the whole. So she, and there are many goddesses like this around, but it was kind of hard to find individual mythology around her. But she is this great creatrix goddess. So she's someone that you would call on when you want to begin anew, or when you want to create newness in your life. One of the images that I found of her, which is definitely evocative of Inanna, and this one I think is one of the Phoenician statues of her. And it's interesting, I had this in my office, this pretty representation of a female holding a vessel, and discovered a picture of her. She was also one of the images of Astarte. I think maybe I don't remember in which in which culture she was in. So many different images of her, but really recognizing her as the ruler of the spirits of the dead who reside in heaven, up around the stars, and the keeper of the moon, surrounded by all of her star children. So lots of really wonderful connections with her, literally around bringing earth and sky together, bringing masculine and feminine together. Eggs, of course, were, or still are, a kind of a classic symbol of fertility. I remember when I was in college and traveling in Greece, I was there for I was in Greece for the Greek Easter, and all over Athens they were handing out red dyed Easter eggs that represent this idea of fertility. We've got a whole bunch of other goddesses to talk about as we get closer to Easter. So that's just a little background about her. I'll share with you another wonderful, I don't think I ever had before, and now of course I know you're seeing it backwards. This is Goddesses for Every Season by Nancy Blair. She created, oh my gosh, years ago, mid-90s, because I actually painted them in the mid-90s when I first started diving into the Divine Feminine. She created amulets called, I think they were just called Amulets of the Goddess, that you could paint. They were just white paint. I've got them somewhere. But then she also created this book called Goddess for All Seasons, and in it I just love giving resources so you can do your own exploration of all this magical, powerful stuff. She has this beautiful affirmation. I'm not going to bother to show you the image that she has here because it's very hard to see. But the affirmation, so what I invite you to do is kind of close your eyes and take in this affirmation, and then I'll share with you an egg/springtime chant that you can carry with you up to and through the spring equinox and beyond. So just make yourselves comfortable and close your eyes and take in this very brief affirmation prayer to Astarte. And then I will sing for you, also very briefly, as chants generally are, a beautiful chant that brings us back to our own essence of being creators and creatrixes. In the galaxy of the goddess, I shine like the moon, the sun, and the stars. When there are no apparent answers to the issues I face, I trust not knowing. I feel inwardly guided and outwardly protected. Darkness always gives birth to light. So just kind of take in that energy, this idea that we are quite literally giving birth to light as we move closer and then past the equinox when the days will truly begin to get longer. And here's a chant to remind you to come back to that place. Shall to earth our seeds rebirth, the egg to eat springtime we greet. Shall to earth our seeds rebirth, the egg to eat springtime we greet. Shall to earth our seeds rebirth, the egg to eat springtime we greet. Shall to earth our seeds rebirth, the egg to eat springtime we greet. So think about creating perhaps your own rebirth mini ritual for yourself. Maybe cooking an egg, imbuing it with what it is that you want to give birth to, what it is that you want to shine a light on in this season of renewal, in this season where the light in every way returns to us. As we move into the more daylight hours, as we move, hopefully, beyond the pandemic, just lightness happens. So sing the chant, you can come back and listen to it, and move forward. And then if you cook an egg and you imbue it with everything that you want to give birth to this spring, then be sure, also in sacred space, that you eat it. It becomes kind of a rebirth communion. It becomes a goddess communion where you literally imbibe in, you take in the energy that it is that you want to create. So thank you much for being with me this week as we explore a little bit about the many faces, the evolution of the goddess Astarte. And join us next week where we'll take a look at the Celtic goddess, Sheila na gig. Thanks so much for being with you. Namaste. Bye for now.